Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Daily Inspection. Years ago, before it died, I worked at a steel mill. The economy was hitting everyone hard, so they started to cut back on overtime and shifts. I was the lowest seniority in the lab, so I was bumped out to ladle treatment, LT to save time. Everyone hated LT except the people working there. It was noisy, dirty and busy. I loved it because it made the day go by fast and there was always something happening, and I hate being bored. It makes me do stupid things. At LT there was a small remote crane that moved supplies around and every inch was accounted for. So when you were moving things, it had to go over work areas. Everyone had to clear the way so supplies could go through. This usually only takes 2 to 3 minutes. Usually. I was the new guy at LT, but while low on the totem pole for the lab, I was probably the 4th highest compared to LT people. Everyone hated it, so transferred as soon as possible. I didn't have a choice, since I was just on loan instead of being laid off. The crane was broke AF. It was missing a wheel. When you have a few tons hanging from a crane, it starts a pendulum effect with the load swinging. The problem is that a few tons will pull a tiny little crane like this one, and when it pulled to the corner with no wheel, the crane would jerk to a halt and cause even more swing. And so on and so on. And the crane wouldn't move. We had been dealing with it, and it was super dangerous swinging tons of aluminum coils over people's heads. I had brought it up to the safety team, and they agreed, and together with management came up with the idea that it is okay to be broke AF as long as no one is around. The wheel was ordered, but would take months to arrive. I wasn't filling out these little OSHA checklists, because if you marked anything as dangerous, you were not allowed to run it by law. On my first day shift, the foreman I didn't know and who never came up to LT had to get the paperwork since someone was on vacation. He noticed I hadn't filled out my daily required checklist. He starts getting in my face. All cranes must have safety inspection filled out at the start of every shift. He stomped out with a smug look. Okay, Mr. Man, you asked for it. I filled out the checklist with the red flagged items, do not use by law, and there was a comment section. Okay to run, preferred shift foreman. And I signed it. I come in the next shift and the crew going home is just a bus, but won't come clean. Wait till the foreman gets here. Okay, I know it was going to do something. It turns out that the returning foreman just grabbed all the papers off the clipboard and dumped them on the general foreman's desk like every day. The GM saw what was on my checklist and knows it has to get turned into OSHA. He tried his best to cover it up, but he couldn't make it go away because the checklist had 3 copies. His/OSHA, the safety team's and mine. He couldn't make all 3 go away. OSHA lost it when the safety team turned in their copy. The regular foreman came up about lunchtime and wanted to talk to me, but we are busy so I can't leave the station, and he has to do it in front of the 4 of us on the crew. The wheel will be overnighted and repaired in 2 days. Don't put OK per foreman on the checklist, and he asked if I was a union lawyer. Well, no, I'm no lawyer, but I'm not stupid. If you force me to run this crane and force me to fill out the checklist, you get what you get. You and I both know this place can't run for 4 hours without that crane. I will run this crane as safely as I possibly can, but if I have to inspect it, I will fail it. So now what? He just walked away, and that was the last time I heard about my daily checklist. I filled them out every day after that, and if it was broke, I filled it out that way and let management deal with it. The next story is called Lunch Break. My ex-employer would send me out on errands all the time, to the point where my lunchtime was over by the time I got back to the office. Many times I would usually skip out on lunch because I personally did not have an appetite. One day I had to go submit some of the company documents somewhere and we were understaffed. So we agreed it's best I go during lunchtime. I submitted the documents and grabbed some lunch from a takeaway. I did not eat the lunch, I simply got it in a takeaway bag and got transport to work immediately. I arrived with only 5 minutes to spare, and I was particularly hungry that day. I tried to eat as fast as possible, and my boss was just talking to me the whole time, so I can't chew and speak at the same time. At exactly 15:01, she tells me, the lunch hour is for you to get lunch and eat it. If you cannot finish your food on time, don't eat it during work hours. Also, please refrain from eating in the work area. I was eating by the microwave because we do not have a designated lunch area. The store, place of employment, was completely empty. I could have used a good 10 minutes to finish up. I didn't have time to eat because I was running your errands. Cue malicious compliance. One day it was lunchtime and I wasn't feeling particularly hungry, so I'm standing by the cash register. My boss rushes in, exclaiming how she has a lot to do and we need to get the stock out of her car as fast as possible so she can get to her next meeting. Will somebody please help me? No one responded. Then she asked me directly, "You will help me get the stock out of the car, right?" I would, but lunchtime is for eating. I took a piece of gum and a bottle of water and stood in the parking lot for the whole hour, watching her struggle with stock and look flustered. Not my problem. The last story is called Real Estate Developers. Back when my wife and I were much more newlywed than we are now, we hired ourselves an architect and went the whole hog on having our cozy little dream home designed. While this was being done, we went shopping around for a parcel of land on which to have it built, which went quickly and easily. We even got a pretty nice deal on a half-acre lot that was just far enough back in the sticks for us to be happy, but close enough to our jobs that it wasn't much of a commute. Best part of all, no homeowners association. There weren't any active back in that area, because, point blank, it was full of poor people back there. Dirt poor country types and working poor wage slave types. We made sure with our lawyer that no previous owner had ever had the title amended to allow for any HOA nonsense as well. Because that's a thing some real estate developers like to do. They'll buy up a property, get the title amended to force the membership of that property into a local HOA, and then resell it with that as a new requirement for any prospective buyer to automatically agree to when they sign the title. Flash forward to August of 2019. Rona was just around the corner, but nobody knew that yet. Everything was dead, which passes for normal out in those parts, and my wife and I had since moved to a different location, but retained that property as one of our various rentals. It was our dream home for several years, and we loved that place. Moving was tough. It was a good neighborhood out there, and folks were very welcoming. Then a company that's totally not named Ryan Homes or anything even slightly similar came in. They spent some years buying everything up back there that got to the market and pressuring folks into selling, which worked out for them only too well. And of course, they gentrified everything. For 3 years and some change, there were massive amounts of the old being torn down and hauled out and the new being built up and sold. The HOA was built right in, because of course it was. Folks with money enough to throw down on badly built houses that looked nice from the front moved in one by one and two by two. Property values in the area skyrocketed. Property taxes skyrocketed right along with them. And more of the less poor people were forced to sell because they got taxed out of their own homes. My wife and I knew what was coming from the get-go. We knew those dinguses from totally not Ryan Homes were going to come sniffing around our way. Not to try to buy us out, but to see if they could finagle, schmooze or threaten us into joining the HOA they were installing. It was inevitable. Lots of information is public record. They knew we had money. They knew we were living below our means by 2 orders of magnitude. They knew we clearly meant to be exactly where we were because we sure didn't have to be. They knew they didn't have a snowflake's hope in hell of pricing us out on taxes. So they tried nagging us to that and coming right up the line on harassment, always to talk to us about joining the HOA. They failed. They got told by one expensive lawyer to find something else to do before we all got super busy helping them find things to worry about. And so they desisted for some years. Then my wife and I moved and got the property set up as a rental. Absolutely not Ryan Homes starts bothering our tenants there. They were trying to get them to pressure us into putting the property into the HOA. They were also getting our tenants riled up with the most outrageous lies about what could happen if we, the owners, don't protect our renters better. My wife and I were livid after hearing about this crap. And so we got a hold of definitely not Ryan Homes to let them know that this was our formal request that they stop bothering our tenants, and that all further communication would be from our really expensive lawyer. They must have assumed we were bluffing, or maybe whoever was in charge of thinking that they didn't show up for work because they just kept right on with their nonsense. It got so bad that they were even sending fake but convincing looking envelopes with eviction notice. Upon being opened, it said, "Could be what you find in your mailbox one day with our wondrous HOA." It was also containing information about the benefits of the HOA. We gathered it all up and got the tenants to talk to our lawyer and got the police involved to get the ball rolling on a harassment investigation. Another formal request to cease and desist was sent to Never Ryan Homes by the very expensive lawyer, which they utterly ignored. I think the guy that's supposed to come to work and think about things quit a long time ago. Maybe he never told anyone. Maybe nobody noticed. Whatever the situation on their end, when my lawyer talked to their lawyer told my lawyer that their client was doing everything legally. And that if we wanted to pursue the matter in court, that was what we'd have to do. So we did. I'm not sure what kind of lawyer magic my lawyer and his fellow legal demons worked on this front. But we were in court for 1 single hour when my lawyer and their 4 lawyers and the judge had a private talk about the preliminary hearing. Half an hour later, and the lawyers from Maybe Ryan Holmes come back into the courtroom looking like a quartet of cats that had been peed on. My lawyer takes a seat beside me and says they are going to settle. And I was like, I didn't think we were that far along into this yet. What happened? And he said they built 51 homes in County of Concern over 2 years. Every single one of them was inspected before the closing of the sale by a real estate agent that never actually got around to getting her home inspector license. And that's how Was It Ryan Holmes the whole time paid me 10 grand to not sue them while they got bent over by the county and the state. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. And I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.